Welcome to Comedy and More. I'm Richie Gold, your host, and we have a great lineup tonight of professional comics you're going to love. We're going to do material, we're going to do jokes, and we're going to give you the insider's view of what's really going on in the comedy world. So for all you aficionados of comedy, aficionado. This is the only time I ever used the word aficionado. So all you aficionados of comedy, come on, let's get the show rolling. First of all, we have the Greek goddess of comedy, Ellen Karas, ladies and gentlemen. Also, hot off the road from NBC tour, Steve Marshall. Ladies and gentlemen, we're all set to start the show. Ellen, how
Richie,
are you?
Good. How are you?
All right, good to be here with you.
Thank you for having me.
Now, they call you the Greek goddess of comedy.
Yes.
Why do you use that particular moniker?
Okay, I don't think that I'm a goddess per se. You've never seen me without makeup, but and before coffee. But what happened was when I started doing open mics, when I got into comedy, you know, and we all do open mics, there was a guy there, his name was Sal, and he started to introduce me as the Greek princess. And it sort of stuck, and then all of a sudden the goddess thing came out. And then a couple of years down the road, I started to do Greek shows for Greek audiences.
Right.
And I had to come up with something. And I was like, well, and it really caught on. And everybody was calling me the Greek goddess of comedy. So I'm like, well, thanks for the name, guys.
Not only that, I understand you have your own radio show. It's on B-Box.
bboxradio.com.
And
Yes.
the name of that show is Karas.
Karas' Comedy Corner. Karas with a K. Comedy with a C, corner with a C. So it's not 3 Ks. I just want to clarify.
I'm telling you something. Ladies and gentlemen, you got to tune in and listen to that program. She's great. And I'll tell you something. One question I need answered. You being a Greek goddess,
Yes.
what can you do about this economy in Greece now?
It's a long time coming.
You're a goddess. You got the power.
Right. Well, I don't know if I have that kind of power. I mean, I can barely get like a good parking space in New York, so it's very limited. But that has been going on for a very long time because, unfortunately, Greece's economics work very differently from ours. So it's a very big government. A lot of people work for the government. A lot of things weren't on the up and up. Sorry, my fellow Hellenes, but and it catches up with you after a while. But the real demise, though, is that they went into the EU, the European Union, and I knew in my gut I didn't think any of that was going to work, just because it's not the United States of America. It's all these different countries and different currencies and different people, and everybody brings something so different to the table. So I think that's really where the tide started to turn.
Well, I think, by this information you gave us, nothing's going to happen.
Everything's okay? The feta's salty, the olive oil will keep flowing, we'll keep breaking plates.
That's right. Still get that Slovakia going.
You asked me the question, and I'm editing myself a little bit, and I want to let you know why. Because I had done what I thought was a humorous video on the Greek crisis a couple of weeks ago, and I put it out there. But I got a call from somebody that I know, a friend of mine who I like very much, and they were very, very upset with me. And they actually called somebody else to verify, and they were upset with me because they felt that I was making fun of Greek people, which I absolutely wasn't. So, it's comedies. When you try to be comedic, you can also get hosed for it because that's all I was doing. I was like, well, I don't know. That's what Saturday Night Live's been doing for like the last 40 years. So,
yeah, but people like to complain, whether you're Jewish, Italian, Greek, black.
I guess,
there's always that element that's going to come in there and go, Faye, man, what you talking about is like that for?
Right,
that's Jewish people.
Right. I was going to say, my friend didn't say it that way, but yes.
Now, you're a headliner. You've been at the Borgata in Atlantic City.
I just came back, really just came back. Yeah,
so how does
that was a great gig.
How does this affect your lifestyle? Because you're a married woman.
Yes.
You work the road.
Yes.
You travel. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not easy being a comedian or just working the road away from home. Tell us, how does it affect? What does your husband say?
Well, I try not. I don't go out like for 3 weeks and then call occasionally. Yeah. So I normally will do like a long weekend. Once or twice a year, I'll go out to LA for a week, and it's very tough. I miss him very much. That is definitely the difference between the married comedians and the single comedians, because when you're single, who cares?
Yeah.
And then my husband likes to know, we speak in the morning, he wants to know how the show went, he wants to know that I'm back at my hotel safe, which I like, but I'm just saying, it's a whole different program when you're married. But I personally, I love to sleep in my own bed. I miss him, I like sleeping in my big king-size bed.
I mean, you have 2 beds in the house, one for him and one for you?
Right, that's exactly what we do. Okay. But no, and then I like my pillow. You get very fastidious, as time goes on. I like my coffee and my crops, but I'll rough it.
Now, when you're the headliner and acting at Borgata or wherever, you headline all over the country, I know this. What is some of the material that you enjoy doing, and why don't you tell us some of the material that you do? I mean,
well, I am married, right? So, single comics do single material. Married comics are going to do married material.
Right.
So I do talk about my husband. Sometimes he doesn't appreciate that I do take shots at him. That's what he calls them, shots. I say they're just funny bits. But of course, if the paycheck was bigger, I think he would call them bits too. I think everything with him equates to the dollar. Yeah. But he's a great guy. Yeah. He's a very moral person. So I am so blessed and so lucky. That's the good news. The other news, though, is he's a bit of a cheap bastard. And I don't know if you've been in a relationship with somebody like that, but it's very time-consuming because there's a lot of Excel spreadsheets involved, variance analysis. It's like being in math class all over again. I have to account for everything.
Well, you have a background in accounting, don't you?
I do. I know, so I'm prepared.
Yeah. Well, listen, I tell you, you are a remarkable woman. You transcended from accounting into comedy, and that's a major thing. I mean, it's not easy. I mean, you take Steve Marshall, for example. Steve, you used to be a teacher.
That's right. I taught school. I also have a degree in accounting. I taught accounting, business law, math, and psychology. It was like a business vocational school, and most of my students were anywhere from 18 to 50-year-old women, and they came with some men, and they came from very bad neighborhoods in Brooklyn and the Bronx, and many ethnic kids, and they were rough kids. I mean, this is not a joke. One day I said to my class, does anybody how many of you carry a weapon on you? And I thought it was a good icebreaker question, because you're always trying to find a way to relate to the kids, not just teach them the subject. Yeah. Do any of you have a weapon on you? And just like the entire class put their hand up, and there was a Hispanic girl, and she had one arm, and she reached in her purse and pulled out a blade this big and put it under her stump and opened it like this and held it up.
Unbelievable.
And I always told the students, when you're in my class, you got to drop the ghetto stuff. In this class, I'm going to stick up for everybody. Because what happens in the class, you get 1 or 2 bullies, and the teacher doesn't stick up to that bully, and I would stick up to them, fight for the whole class, and I would say, listen, that ghetto behavior is not going to happen in school, but when you get back on the train, I expect you to use that ghetto behavior. Because the reality is you need that to survive the streets.
It's a defense mechanism. I used to teach in the Bronx before I got into show business. And it's changed so much since I was a kid. I mean, now you walk through the school, they got metal detectors, they got cops, they got police dogs. I walk through, cop stops me, he goes, whoa, wait a minute. You carrying any weapons? I go, no. He said, well, you better take mine. I think you're going to need it. So it's just crazy. And these kids are so tough now. They're tough in school. I told my students, I said, you got to study hard. You got to study very, very hard. How else do you expect to get into a good penitentiary? You got to wear different hats nowadays. Most comics come out of a different background. They don't just say, grow up, I'm going to be a comedian.
I think most today's comedians came from an affluent background, where many of the comedians, maybe like ourselves, came from the streets, and comedy came from the streets up instead of from the country club down. So I think a lot of comedy really did come out of suffering and of survival. I mean, I know a lot of the humor, we talked about this, a lot of the humor didn't come out of like I'm telling a joke. The humor came out of survival. I grew up in Flatbush, all right? I went to all public school. I went to PS 217, then I went to maximum security junior high school, Ditmas. Nobody used the bathroom for 3 years. I was not an athlete. I was not tough. my sense of humor saved my life. So it was motivated. It wasn't like, oh, is this a funny joke? I was like trying to save my life.
Sure, it's a great defense mechanism. Me too. When I was a skinny kid. I'm still skinny now, but all the people I hung around, the Italians, the blacks, the
Right.
Spanish, these were tough guys. I was a skinny kid. I couldn't fight, but I used humor to protect myself. Somebody else attack me, I go, yeah, you're right. yeah. And whenever I do a joke, I act stupid. You know what I found? If people think you're crazy, they'll stay away from you. Because nobody bothers, people that are
Right.
crazy. Just leave them alone. So that was a defect mechanism, like you say.
That's why I
Yeah.
just start screaming the Lord's Prayer on the train. Just so this way I could just,
And not only that, people will give you money.
I was going to say that, I swear. Well, you just have a natural instinct for survival. And then I think as a school teacher, I always said that people that are abused as children either end up to abuse their children or they become comedians. You have empathy. And I think having been in that rough times in school, when I ended up teaching these rough kids, you were in the Bronx, let's be honest, the kids I was teaching were rough kids, rough young adults. And I think having that street background and that sense of humor, they respond to that.
Right.
They were very nervous in math class. I mean, they were very nervous because these are kids whose self-esteem wasn't good and they never wanted to look bad. And I almost had to teach them that don't worry about looking bad. That's the first step to getting good.
Exactly.
And sense of humor.
Now, let's talk about sense of humor. You guys been in the business. You're seasoned professionals. You've been around for years. You worked the Village. You worked up Upper East Side, Manhattan, on the road. Comedy's changed quite a bit since our formative years. I started in Greenwich Village in the late 70s. And comedy has just changed. Even the people before us, the Catskill Mountain
Right.
comics, the Henny Youngmans, the Shecky Greens, the Jackie Masons, the Rodney Dangerfield. It's changed now. Humor's changed. This political correctness has come in and it's affected the way comics do business. I mean, it's to me, it's lost a certain element. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think that, when you take the comic, like Seinfeld, I was going to say Bill Cosby, but that's not a really good example right now.
That's a bad example.
So he was more of a storyteller and other things. But when you take like Rodney, those one-liners, those really funny things, and they were trying to get that laugh. But you got, even though they were short bits, you really got their persona. Sometimes now when I watch the younger comics, first of all, they seem very, very dark. Everything is very drug-oriented. Weed is huge. It's like the big topic, and that can be a 10-minute bit. I mean, I find it kind of boring. And the kind of the sleeping till noon and that they think that part is funny, where I think that era and all the eras before now were more about real rough and tumble things, like you were talking about, more survival things.
I think we came from a background of less affluence.
Right.
Today's comedians, I think the mother or the father, or they're living off a girlfriend or someone. I don't think it's the same struggle. And I was thinking about this to reconcile it in my mind, but maybe that's okay because, we came from more of a struggle, so we came from that. And if they came from affluence, then their comedy is going to come from affluence. So I think that's okay too, and we have to move with the times. But as far as the political correctness goes, my whole career is based on being politically incorrect.
That's what every comic's supposed to be.
Exactly. Somebody said that. Howard Feller, the comedian, said to me, my whole hook is I'm not here to behave. He said that should be every comedian is not here to behave. Groucho Marx said, whatever it is, I'm against it. Right. And I kept yelling since I first commenced it, I'm against it, I'm opposed to it. I would never be a member of a club that would have you as a member of a club. Where today it seems that everybody's about, no, I want to be a member of a club. Yeah. And political correctness is not just about saying shocking things. It's about the ability to have free speech, and it's the ability to be able to acknowledge people for their ethnicity. So people say, that's a racist joke. I don't believe, this is me talking, there's no such thing as a racist joke, okay? Right. Jokes can't be racist. Hitler didn't line up Jews and say, now I'm going to punish you, I'm going to read out of a Jew joke book. Oh no! You know what I mean? jokes are the things that always were the icebreaker.
Right,
I'd still play street ball. I mean, don't tell me, I'm a Jewish guy. If I drop a quarter, every black guy looks, the Jew's going to pick it up. The Jew's going to pick it up. Right. And every black person playing basketball does not say African American. I've never heard one person on the basketball court say, pass the ball, African American, I'm open. It's a term that black people only use when they're filling out a grant and they want money from the government. Then all of a sudden they're not black, they're an African American. Yeah. Okay? This is not real. Political correctness is set up, I believe, for economic reasons to sell things. And people are removing this identity, which is what made America great. It's the greatest country in the world, not because we exclude people, because we let everybody in, and we're forgetting that. Right. We let you in, then we make fun of you. That's the United States of America.
And don't forget, the earlier times of show business, racial jokes, ethnic jokes was the norm. Everybody did it.
And the person who was the recipient of the joke laughed at it.
Exactly.
And now we've become so. I think, you know what? I think first of all, lawyers have gotten involved, and that's completely screwed up life in general.
Sure.
Right.
I mean, you can't go to doctors don't want to operate on you because they're afraid they're going to get sued. Nobody wants to touch you. It's the same thing. I think they're starting to get it. They saw a market in the comedy business. Yeah. Years ago, when Gilbert Gottfried made a joke about it was a tsunami joke. It was after the tsunami had happened, and he made some joke, and he got fired from Affleck. Right. And I found that appalling. It's okay if you don't like the joke. It's okay if you don't find it funny. You don't like that comedian. You don't want to watch his show. That's okay. But when comics now start to get fired from jobs, and now with social media, the jokes are being put out on Twitter. So that's a completely different platform than anything that we've ever been used to. Right. So what happens is they put out a joke, and then they get ostracized, and then they have to retweet back that they apologize. I think that is the most ridiculous and so destructive to comedy.
It destroys the art. It destroys the art form. If you go back on the TV, you see the Dean Martin roasts. Remember? I mean, Don Rickles was one of the greatest people on the roast because Don Rickles was attack humor. He would insult people, their ethnicity, their religion, whatever it was. I remember once Don Rickles, they were roasting Sammy Davis Jr. And Don Rickles had a funny line. He says, Sammy Davis Jr. in show business is a triple threat. He sings, he dances, and he can dust.
Right.
I mean, that's funny.
And Sammy Davis Jr. laughed hysterically.
He was jumping around.
Exactly.
Because they knew you were laughing with them, not at them.
And it didn't come from a place of hate. It doesn't come where now it's like, oh my gosh, you hate them.
Well, you have twofold. I think you have two problems with this. One, the people that are censoring the ethnic humor, did they ever grow up in an ethnic neighborhood? Did they ever date a black girl? I dated a black girl. Are they Jewish? Have they been around Italians? My ex-wife is Italian. So they're talking about things they know nothing about. They're so worried that an Italian, a Jew, or a black person is going to get afraid, but they have no evidence of this.
Right.
They have no evidence of what they're talking about because they don't spend time in those communities. The first thing you know about ethnic people is we want to know what you are. Are you Greek? Are you Jewish? Are you Irish? That's important to us. And it's an icebreaker. So what? Look, if you're Jewish and you're worried about cheap Jew jokes, then leave a 25% tip. But that ain't going to happen. All right? You know what I mean?
Right. So many people ask me what I am, and I mean, we're all New Yorkers, so I don't know how it works in the rest of the country. I know though how it always worked here, and I was the same way, and I grew up the same way. And I would always get, and still to this day, I grew up in I have a Greek friend, Effie Slapadopoulos, and we used to go, and then, become this whole conversation. So I agree with you.
That's
all of a
how you
sudden
break
it
the
became
ice.
like we're not supposed to talk about it.
But there must be an economic reason for that. It's the same reason as we don't show breasts in the United States of America. We show them in Europe, we show them in other places. We don't show them here because breasts sell everything in America.
And you're an expert on that.
Yes, I am.
You have the international channel just specifically for that.
Because I have double D-span instead of C-span. Because breasts in this country, if you showed them all the time, you couldn't market things with a breast. In this country, you put breasts on a box of cereal, everybody will have it for breakfast. I'll have 2 bowls. Didn't you you did a great joke once. I'll always remember this. You said about you learned in psychology class.
Oh, yeah.
Would you please?
This is going back about.
This
20
is
years.
so, I'll never forget it.
Okay. They say, oh yeah, some men, this is totally off the top of my head.
Right.
Some men prefer women with small breasts. Men with not so much intelligence prefer women with
Right,
larger
set it up
breasts.
again. They said that men that like women with small breasts are very intelligent.
Yeah.
And
Men who are not so intelligent prefer women with large breasts. Well, all I really could say about that was,
I always remember that.
I forgot the joke.
Because
you
it was so,
remembered.
because and also the joke had a point.
Yeah.
You see, a lot of comedians today, they're talking about sex or they're saying shocking things. They never were with a black person. They're not from a black neighborhood, but they're talking about it. That joke, the point is how dumb people are that they stereotype women, that they think that women with small breasts must be smarter
Right.
than women with large breasts,
Right.
which didn't make sense to me because I grew up with Jewish women
Yeah.
who all taught the public schools and they were all married to doctors and they're very intelligent and they were very zoftic.
Yeah.
Okay, so I found everything to be opposite, they tell you in life.
Yeah, yeah.
They tell you skinny girls are happy and fat girls are unhappy. It's the most ridiculous. Skinny girls are the most unhappy girls. They walk around every mall in America in a bad mood.
Well, they're hungry.
They're hungry. Ask a fat girl, what do you want to do? Let's go eat. Believe me, they're happy.
Yeah.
It's all a lie.
Of course. Now let me just digress for a minute. You have great material. I mean, you maybe remember this joke. I forgot about it, but you have a great mind. You have a great mind. Tell me some of your favorite jokes in your act. Do you have anything that comes to mind right away? Marriage, dating?
Well, my husband's very into the Groupon. Do you guys like the Groupon? Do you like?
I'm
the
Jewish,
Groupon?
of course I love the
Okay,
Groupon.
He loves the Groupon. So he surprised me because last month was our 6-month anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And we went zip lining over Bridgeport because it was $14.95. So that's the joke.
What's zip lining?
Zip lining. You usually should do it like over a jungle, not
Is it
over
up
a
in the
city.
air and
yeah.
you're flying?
Yeah, it's like a little wire.
It's like bungee jumping, but in a zip.
Listen,
Yeah.
I'm a Jew. I won't even leap out of bed if there's not carpeting to break my fall.
You know,
What are
you
nuts?
know when you put little kids in the swing?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's like almost like a little kid swing.
Right, right.
And then there's a wire holding you up from
This is how
over a
nuts
lo-
people are.
Yeah.
We spend a long time to figure out how to keep you in a plane, how to not fall out of a plane. And the second we figure out how to keep you in a plane, they're like, let's jump out of a plane. You know what I mean? It's everything is all the opposite in life.
What's some of your favorite jokes? Some out of your material that you
Well, I think I always like saying this to people, and it's based on the truth. You know, Jewish people and all ethnic people get a stereotype. Whether it's true or not, that's up to you. But the stereotype of Jewish people is being cheap or worried about money. And I'm trying to let Jewish kids off the hook. It's not our fault. It's our parents' fault. Jewish kids blame their parents for everything. I wasn't born cheap. I didn't shoot out between my mother's pregnant thighs. Hey, where's the cash? I was brainwashed. My parents taught me the value of money the old-fashioned way. My parents used to withhold taxes from my allowance. Christian kids would ask me, Steve, how much money are you getting for allowance? I was like, I don't know. Take home or gross? Who takes FICA from a little Jew? I found the loophole. I moved in with an Italian family. I got paid off the books. It was beautiful.
You were recently married. Oh, 6
years.
6 years.
Yeah. Time flies while you're watching each other ferment. Yes.
I'm telling you,
Yes.
unbelievable. Marriage is something. I don't understand marriage. Marriage is it's a very difficult thing to
Yeah.
make marriage.
I mean, look at Steve. He's glowing. Look at us.
Yeah.
But I was married.
But you're divorced. That's why you're glowing.
No. It's better to be married. Let me tell you something. It's much better. Look, I'm killing with the camera people.
I'm married. I've been married many, many years. Lovely wife, you know.
Right.
And my wife tells me, she says, look, when you're happy, I'm happy. And when you're miserable, I'm really happy.
Right.
This is the trick to a relationship, because I made a lot of mistakes. The trick to a relationship is not sex. Yes, women love sex. We know that. But in a relationship, the most important thing is to make the woman you're with laugh. Because when a woman laughs, it's one moment of the day we know they're not angry at us.
This is true.
But women, when laughing, are very sexy. It's like when a comedian makes a woman laugh,
100%.
that's like, wow, that's like we think we might have an in, you know?
Yeah, my husband doesn't laugh at anything I say. Yeah, he doesn't at all.
My wife's the
And
same way. She doesn't laugh at it.
sometimes I don't even think he knows me. The other day he's like, "Will you darn my socks?" I'm like, "Who am I, Betsy Ross?" I'm like, when I moved in, did you see a Singer sewing machine come with me at all? No.
One thing I don't understand, and this is, gay marriage is the big thing now. Right?
Oh yes,
Have
it's
a
very
gay-
important.
Yeah, look, gays, let them be happy, whatever. But tough enough understanding regular marriage, I understand gay marriage. And now, I know a lot of gay people, they're bright, creative, love of life people. Why would they want to get married? They'll be miserable like everybody else.
Well, you know what? Did you ever think about this? That everything, like I've been saying through the whole show, is the opposite. They're overselling happiness. There's a lot of people that like misery.
Yeah.
Believe me.
That, there's a lot of truth in that. Some people just love being miserable.
Yeah, I think it's easier to.
No,
Who likes being miserable?
Well, take a walk down Wall Street. You see these people walking around. I should have made this deal. I should have made that deal. I could have made money here. I sound like Jackie Mason. I should have done this. I should have done. Now there's a brilliant comedian. Is Jackie Mason.
He is.
And
he doesn't mince words. He says exactly what's on his mind. He's very
Exactly.
pro-Israel, and he gets a lot of
Jackie is one of the greatest of the great.
lot of
Him, Rodney,
feedback.
George Carlin. These are some of the great. They had an act. They had material. They had a style. You believe
Style.
that.
a style. That's great. I think what I was trying to say earlier was
I know
right,
you
there's
tried to
no-
say it, but you couldn't get it out.
I couldn't get it out. But style, that's exactly it. Plus, they dressed. I'm sorry, might piss people off. Sometimes I watch Comedy Central and I see these comics and they look like they just rolled out of bed. If you're going to be on TV, please, a nice shirt, a pair of slacks, at the very least, comb your hair, please.
Yeah, that doesn't disturb me. I'm more into what the person is saying, and that's when I say I'm not here to behave. I'm not here to dress the way you want me to dress. I think that's all. That's trite things like matching your clothes and everything like that. I more want to hear what's in your heart
Exactly.
and what you have to say.
Well, what is the most unusual or out of bounds situation you've been in as a performer? Either working Mohegan Sun, comedy clubs, and you two, and I want to know some of the unusual experiences you might have had.
Well, as a Jew, I've had to work churches.
You keep mentioning a Jew a lot, but you're not Jewish.
What
I'm just kidding. I'm trying to get a line out of you.
Well,
right
I'm not
there.
I'm not a. By the way, also, I'm not a religious Jew. I do believe in God. I'm what I call a cultural Jew. I believe in valet parking, air
But
conditioning,
why
Barbra
have so many
Streisand.
Jews got in, from the early days, vaudeville, whatever, to the 60s, why have so many Jews created this industry almost?
Because I think there's something about, first of all, anybody that's had suffering, and a lot of ethnic people who came to this country had suffering, and humor is a way to relieve that suffering. Anybody, if you're in any type of pain. The other thing too
But they're
is
Jewish people are funny.
I think
the
we're
words,
funny
the
because-
Yiddish, the food, the family,
it's because we're taught to question everything. Listen, it's very simple. You want to talk Jewish, it's easy. You put a question mark at the end of at any statement. All right.
Right.
If you go, I'm hungry. That's not funny. But if you're Jewish, you go, I'm hungry.
Right.
If you go get the car. That's not funny. If you're Jewish, you put a question mark. You go, get the car. So it's this questioning, and it's also the dichotomy in Jewishness. We see the negative and the positive. In Chinese, we see the yin and the yang, and that's what creates humor, and that leads us to the great comedians like Lenny Bruce and Richard Pryor
And
George
Steve
Carlin.
Marshall and Ellen Karras. And I'm Richie Gold, your host. And I hope you enjoyed the show. See you next time at Comedy and More. Thank you.